Welcome back to the live streaming of the 13th CES. We're now going to bring to you the music education panel. Today, we're going to speak about how we can invigorate aspiration and reimagine education from the English perspective. I'm handing it over to the directors of this panel. Hello, welcome to the Music Education Panel live stream. This is the first time ever for the CES to engage in a discussion with music. And we wanted to lean on the passion people have for the musical art and the connection between music and interdisciplinary education. We have initiated this event and invited musicians and educators from China and other countries, universities and colleges to share with you and have an international, interesting discussion. I am from the Berklee College of Music. So the guest of this event came from China, the United States, and Australia, and the whole forum is going to be bilingual in both Chinese and English. In the whole process, we have simultaneous interpretation, and the directors will speak Chinese and ask questions in English when necessary. Our second group of speakers are TwoSet Violin, Brett Young and Eddie Chen. They're a classical violin duo that is taking the internet by storm. We're pleased to be here. Greetings. So in today's panel, we're going to invite the four panelists to share their perspectives in turn and then discuss some of the hot issues. Today, they will discuss the nature of music education, its role in the current educational environment, and also discuss its role in children's music education, education in Chinese, American music schools, music and general education, and internet music promotion. Speakers actually has taken the internet by storm. You probably already have heard of them or watched their videos. We actually have the honor of inviting these two young musicians from TwoSet Violin. They were founded in 2014 by Eddie Chen and Brett Young. I was very hooked the first time I saw their content online. They're doing a great job and forever changing the landscape of classical music industry. Now the floor is yours. Greetings. I will be speaking Chinese, but our Chinese might not be that good. Sometimes we need to switch to English. So today, what we would like to share with you, we have heard from the wonderful speakers before us. They've talked about many things that are very interesting. What we also want to make our content interesting, and we would like to share with you our own experience as music learners. We have become musicians. We work in orchestras, and we're now content creators on the internet. The whole process of learning English and the things we have learned, and something that we find very special that we would like to share with you so that we might shed a little bit of light on what value you can gain through learning of music. Can you understand me? Yeah, okay. So the first thing I would like to share with you is, in my own experience, learning music could teach you how to become courageous enough to pursue your own colors, your true colors. What do I mean by that? When I was a young teenager, 13, 15 maybe, I first started learning. I was one of the children who were forced to pick up an instrument by my parents. I hated violin when I was little. I didn't want to practice. And I was told that I can't have dinner unless I play for 30 minutes. Oh, me too. I believe many people started that way. When I was about 14, 15, when I started to get in touch with many different types of music, different bands, different musicians, I all of a sudden found that I actually love the violin. I love the creation of music. And my mother is a very strict tiger mom, and she always wanted for me to become a doctor. And so when I was 17, she told to me, you have to take the entrance exam for the medical school. If you don't do that, I'll forbid you from learning more music, because music is only your excuse to shy away from the actual hard work and studying. And so I actually sit the exam, and I got recruited by medical school. So I told my mother, see, I've done it. I can get into medical school, but I really want to be a musician. I was actually shaking with fear when I was saying that, because I didn't want to make her angry or disappointed. Um, that was the first experience I wanted to share with you. And the second one was when I was 21. I was about to graduate from university, and my violin teacher told me that I should go to another country to take a master's course, or perhaps pursue a PhD um, course. At that time, we were only just starting TwoSet Violin. Not a lot of people were watching us, but we have enjoyed it very, very much. We thought it was a great thing to be doing. So in that process, I have learned to become courageous enough and listen to myself, what I actually wanted to do at that stage. So I didn't go to another country to pursue further studies. I stayed for TwoSet Violin. And I think that is the reason why today we are lucky enough to do something that we really want to do. But of course, people would say, perhaps if you wanted to become a musician, but I didn't have your level of success. I wanted to do YouTube. I want to be a YouTuber, but I don't have enough followers. What can I do? To me, the most important thing is like what Beth was saying in her presentation. A great teacher can actually allow the student to become inspired and be motivated to learn. And so in that process of my own learning, my entire life view has been changed. Every morning I wake up excited, knowing what I want to do. And I was brave enough to listen to myself, to what my heart was telling me. And I think that was the important life lesson musical education brought to me. Wow. What pressure to follow that act. My Chinese is not that good. You have to support me. So we're sharing with you our experience. Hard work and honest work are both very, very important. As we work in the workspace of content creators, in content, very important things are the things that we have learned. The first part was our learning of violin. We must practice, we must work hard. You go onto the stage, you play, people know how much you've practiced. And if you didn't practice, it was very obvious. Everyone would know, the audience would know, your teachers would know, your classmates would know. And that's a very important value that we have, dedication and diligence, and also honest work. How do you express your music? Two people came into the room. We apologize.
How honest is the work? OK， 还有这到 content 里面的时候，内容里面就是说
And then when we talk about content, in the content landscape, a lot of our experience, there were many moments in which we need to make a choice between working hard in the honest way or taking the easy way out, or taking the shortcut. And sometimes the shortcut's really tempting. So our experience was, if we were going to make a video, if we wanted to perform, we must practice beforehand. We didn't work with an agency, an MCN agency. We wanted to do it ourselves and improve by ourselves. And there was a crossroad. there were many opportunities before us. Many MCN agencies come and approach us and say, we'll help you to do A, B, C, D, E, F, G. What do you want? Do you want collaboration? Do you want funding? We can support you. And in many aspects, we looked at their offer and we didn't think it was what we wanted to do. So this again brings me back to the initial idea of being passionate, hard work, and honest work. How should I put this? It's difficult to make a decision in the face of temptation. Sometimes the offers are very incentivizing.
Most of the time, actually, every time we chose something that's
every time
these two things, the reward is much better. 我换成英文的
That's okay.
中文讲不出来。
It's more fulfilling.
It's more fulfilling. 心里里面比较 fulfilling.
So psychologically, we're much more fulfilled. Okay, I can jump in here. There has been several quite popular videos on our account. We were actually talking about some of the violinists who were not playing honest music. They say they are the fastest violin players, but they were not doing honest work. And the reason why these content become very popular is because deep down people can tell who are the fakes and who are the honest, hardworking musicians, people who care about their product, or people who are actually taking the shortcut. And we continue to emphasize that in music learning and in content creation, hard work and honest work are the very important values. Another anecdote, I don't know if I'm taking up too much time. There is something else we would like to share with you. We believe there's something that is very powerful about music. Music can bring people together. It has that special ability. For example, today you go to a new country, you don't know the people there. They have very different background, they have different race, they have different gender to yourself. But once you sit together with two other musicians, you have a quartet, impromptu, improvised, Mozart or something else. You don't speak the same language, but at that moment, you're able to communicate among each other and create resonance among the four of you using music. And that is a very important element to music. The reason why music is so important in today's world is its ability to help people to communicate and bring people together. And I believe that is the most important thing. And as we create internet videos, we have learned that again firsthand, because when we create this video, we would meet other people who are equally as passionate about music. We can form really exciting and inspiring things through those communication with the common language of music. And we believe those are the three things we have learned from our own experience, why music education is so important in today's world. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you, TwoSet, for those wonderful insights you've shared with us. It makes you more courageous to pursue what you really want in your heart. A lot of these things you've shared with us resonate with us and are very, very powerful sentiments. People who have not yet followed the TwoSet, please follow them on YouTube and Bilibili. We would like to thank you all for helping us to understand the concepts more and share your own personal stories. We'll now go into the second half, which is the round table.
Discuss some of the most important issues in the industry and answer questions from the audience. So without further ado, let's move on to the first topic, the purpose of music education. Again, welcome all the panelists from the first session. Well, the first question has to do with the purpose of the music education. How do we view the utilitarianism of music education today? Where is the balance between utilitarianism and artistic purity in music education and learning? Well, we already heard about it, the purpose of.
Yeah, and I actually want to throw this question to Brett and Eddie. What do you think?
I think I agree very much with what Julia and Beth have said, in the sense that, I don't know, it's finding purpose is one of those things that I think is so important to all of us, because it's how we navigate our everyday life and know who we are. And so I think I read a quote somewhere once where it's like, either the world will ask you who you are, and you can either answer, or the world will tell you who you are. And I don't necessarily think, oh, the world told you who you are, and in any way that's lesser. But it does bring to the question of whether we come into learning music because we were told to, because we were just in the education system and we've brought along, you got to learn your music theory, you got to practice your scales, and you have to play Bach this way. Or, and for some people that might be perfectly enjoyable and fine, but for others they might enjoy discovering for themselves their purpose and their relationship to the music. And that's definitely been the case for myself, and I think Brett as well. Sure, we did go through the whole process of practicing our scales, and we're very grateful for it. But during this process, it gave us a lot of time to reflect, and especially when times got tough. I think times when we practiced 5-6 hours a day for competition, and then we didn't go through, and that deep feeling of disappointment. But then you also don't want to give up music as a passion, and then those times really make you sit back and think with the pain, like, why am I doing this? Why do I love this? And I think if you can let that teach you about yourself and your relationship to music, then your purpose becomes stronger and it's so much more fulfilling. And you can also then be more open-minded and try to have your own creative interpretation of what it means to be a musician. And I think that's great.
I love that. Thank you for saying that. And that actually connects really well to our next question. 那第二个问题也是和刚刚第一个问题是息息相关的，就是音乐。
The second question is related to the first, which is the motivation in music education. To work with students or parents or the audience, how do you really install motivation?
继续问一下Brett and
So
Eddie.
you talk about TwoSet before you refer to what they said frequently in your sharing. So we would like to bring this question to TwoSet Violin. How are you doing this? How are you bringing the community together with your work?
Actually, kind of tie on to that. I'll kind of just say what I experienced for motivation. I think it's always a topic that's brought up endlessly. I think there's two of them. That's most obvious to me. What I experience is the external motivation, also internal motivation. And it's neither one or the other. They kind of work together. An external one is pretty obvious. It's like, goal settings, what you want to achieve, what you think you want, going through the process of that and working backwards. If I want to do a competition, if I want to do an audition, just for my own sake to improve, how am I going to work this out? So that's one part. Another one, internal, I think, which is very interesting to me, is it's more about learning about yourself and being okay with these kind of, emotions you feel being a musician, right? Like, I think at the end of the day, we're human, we feel multiple emotions. And I think it's really important, let's say, tying back, you have a competition you didn't get in, you obviously feel frustrated, anger. I think those emotions, I think a lot of people, what I did was always trying to hide away, run away from them. Whereas I think it's really important to kind of just observe and look at that and go, oh, wow, this is what I'm feeling. And through that, I feel like this whole process makes it very enjoyable for me. I'm not saying I like feeling angry or feeling frustrated, but the whole process of kind of observing yourself, learning intrinsically who you are, what you're doing, what meaning you're going to place in this world, versus, in conjunction with what you're doing externally with the goals. Now, tying that, the way when we make content, in some ways, whether we know or not, we wanted to bring people into the world of classical music. I think early on, there was not many content creators, so to speak, for classical music. It was definitely unknown. You had to kind of put ourselves back in 2014, where in the classical music world, social media content was quite rare, right? It wasn't as easily accessible. But for us, we always felt that, as long as we can share who we are, we were pretty lucky in a sense that we quickly realized there were so many people around the world that shared the same values and that related to what we do. And in some ways that was kind of welcoming, heartwarming, and, inspired us to keep doing what we're doing and keep going. And that gave us a lot of confidence in doing what we're doing. So it's like, it's normal to feel certain ways when you go on stage, perform, and you don't feel good. As a violinist, sometimes the bow starts shaking because nerves are just rampant. But that's completely fine, completely normal. And before that, it's always, people always think, oh, that's not a good thing. But I think for us, we've learned that being okay with the uncomfortable and the uncertainty, actually sticking to what you love, usually yields better results, an outcome that's more rewarding.
Yeah, thank you. Thanks for sharing that.
I believe that's a wonderful answer, and very much to the point. TwoSet Violin also have experiences that might resonate with what you have just said. They are evangelists of classical music, if I may say so. So you must have a lot of sort of experience along the way. This question comes from SKY Music Education, one of your followers. They want to understand, as someone who disseminates classical music, have you experienced burnouts? What made you stay and stick to it?
好，很好的问题。其实我觉得我本身有 burn out 过蛮多次，特别是大学有一段时间，我特别的严重，我那时候有整整一年没办法拉小提琴，然后我的 burn out 甚至是
For about a year, I could not play violin. And when I was in college, that was the hardest time for me. So I've had a lot of burnouts, and back then I could not just force myself to play violin. My arms were hurting when I wanted to play violin. Well, my dad is very interested in psychology, and I've seen a lot of musicians around me who cannot continue the career in music because of burnout. I was very lucky because I could and I managed to rise above the burnouts I experienced. I don't want to take too much time, but I can think about 2 points relating to burnout. First,
burnout 这件事并不是需要
burnout itself should not be feared.
你 burnout 表示你很在乎。
It is not scary. It shows how much you care. You love it. And because of how much you value it, your mind is set on things that are a bit unhealthy. relating to this passion. When you have burnout, please excuse yourself. You should not criticize yourself for having the burnout, because that is going to be a vicious cycle. It only amplifies the burnout. It makes it even scarier. Lots of athletes have experienced a burnout in their careers as well. How did I overcome it? 3 ways. First, very simple. Perhaps you're going to laugh at how dumb it is. However, it is not easy. You need to structure in. I think we also need to work harder on this. I think for Brett, well, last year or the year before, we worked too much and we just had even health problems. And so every once in a while, maybe once in 1 month or 3 months, we need to rest. Sorry, not structure in, but rest. And so rest is important. Second, I also learned that burnout happens because we're trying to escape. It is possible that we're trapped in a situation or even in a state of mind and we don't want to feel it. And so we try to escape in order not to feel it. And that's when addiction happens. For instance, addiction to video games, because that helps me escape from the discomfort that I have. And when pressure overwhelms me, I try to look at a different thing. Sometimes practice could be the practice, and that's something that we should be alerted about. And we are not practicing because we love music. Instead, we think our self-worth is not high enough, and we think once we get recognition of A and B and C, my self-worth will be fulfilled. That's just an example. And third way is more practical. Well, I think especially when it comes to a teacher, you should set a purpose or a goal for yourself and for your students that is not too hard to achieve, and nor should it be too easy. And without a cookie cutter approach, and without a close understanding of where the students are, the goals may not be fitting. If the student is having trouble with scale, but you ask the student to practice pagani, and of course he or she is going to experience burnout because the goal is not realistic. And so 3 things that I can share now. Yeah, thank you very much for the very real sharings. Very impressive, and I believe lots of us have benefited from your stories. And the last question will be left to Yang. Well, last question for this session. Actually, I'm most interested in this question. I think it's the most interesting of all questions. So, well, we know Julia and Beth taught in China before. Beth and TwoSet violin and have the understanding of Chinese music industry. So, our question is on there are problems and drawbacks of a discipline-based music education in the Chinese context. So what reforms are needed? How would you design music education programs in the Chinese K-12 education system? And so it's about design. So to said, now I want to hear both of your ideas. So, Brett, let's start with you. If you were to design a music program for China, we've got a lot of followers in schools. So how would you design it? But I don't know. I really don't know. It's a very difficult question. It's designing the programs for schools. Well,
不知道，我的想法是 I don't know. I don't know if it's gonna work, but I think a lot of it intuitively straight away, I think it should come from the teachers and how they create a space for students to feel like they can open up, explore themselves, and also, practice work, things like that. I think for sure one way it won't work is if everyone is stifled and they can't feel being able to speak up, but it can also go the other way. When there's too much of that, then there's not enough coherence. So I think really from my experience, I think a great teacher can help you work at your own pace without feeling overwhelmed or burnout. But it's just enough to keep you on your toes, to keep going. And also what Eddie said, it can't be too difficult or too easy, right? And I think a workspace like that would definitely contribute. I don't know if the outcome will be the one we want, but I do think that is something that might have some positive results. Yeah.
感谢 Brad 给我们带来一个很大途径的一个演讲。
thank you, Brad, for on that comment. We'll come back to Eddie later.
We would like to give the floor to Eddie. We saw that you were talking between yourselves. We believe many audience members have taken out their notepad and wants to take notes of what you said. What class are you going to design for music education?
我刚刚一直在想，
Bye. I was thinking about that question. It's a very difficult question.
然后我觉得这个 expertise
I don't have that expertise, I don't think, to provide a quality answer. I think
大家都说了很多
everyone had spoken about
很
this,
好的点子，
many valid points,
在这里头我是对可能
but I think I am probably the least experienced to answer that question. That's all right. That's all right. Use your imagination and talk to us about the question.
我想，可是我能想象的就是我在想，
Our imagination was,
哪一些音乐老师，我自己
I try to think back to the music teachers I have had growing up.
重要的一点就是
A very important point was
这个 equation 里头是一个很重要的
that teachers play the most important role in that equation. Lucy talked about how we need to train the trainers, and I want to call back to a teacher I had in high school.
每天就脾气很
The teacher
然后你表演的时候他也不会很支持你，然后大家在那里
was not very supportive as you practice and you perform, and the students were, because of that, they were not less motivated. And there was one time when we had an Australian music orchestra event where young people get together and form a band.
大家都很爱的一个，那时候可能
At that time, there was a conductor whom was well loved. He was already in his 70s. He has the ability, a magical ability, to unite the young people around him. 6-hour-long rehearsals, but everyone was energetic and passionate, and he was able to make you feel safe enough to ask him stupid questions. And every time he would say something like,
是你们要问的那一个问题，意思是说
the only stupid question is the question you didn't ask, which means that you can feel brave enough to ask that question. Don't be ashamed of not knowing.
怎么去让这个变成设计的
So how can that become the key to the designing of a curriculum? I don't know.
说了就是
But I think what you have said,
点燃这些学生，
if the teachers can light the students up,
可以
light their passion for music up, so the students could feel passionate. Students would then want to do it themselves. They'll be keen to learn. They'll be motivated to pursue that dream. So if a teacher are able to make the students feel that, half the work is done.
I think will relate. It's not just within their classroom, it's also what the students' relationship is with their parents, because that will also help. I think, I don't know, my intuition says it's something there that works in harmony with the student being in class. Yeah, I don't know. I feel like it's both. It's a mutual thing, a teacher and parents.
That's true.
It's because one thing for sure is you also don't want the student to run to one side as a place to escape, as a point we made before. I think it needs to kind of all work together in order for a healthy education. How do we do it? I don't know. I just play violin. So, but
No,
I
你
think
们
that
其实已经知道很多，你们的很多课都可以拿到 K12 的课里面。
No, actually, many of your classes can be directly transplanted into K-12 curriculum. Every minute around the world, you're actually trying to get people to guess where you are geographically. Which country were you in? What sort of cultures you have? That's real geography lessons. You teach the students, the children who learn music, what's the most important, not the fancy skills, but the things that you learn along the way. And this is very, very good examples. I can take out many of your videos and put it in my class. What was mentioned before, such as how we can teach the children, a lot of the content you've touched upon can actually be incorporated into K-12 education. Well, thank you very much, Ms. Luo, for that. I personally, as a student of College of Music, I have been learning a lot today, but because of the time constraint, we must call this panel to an end. We would like to thank you very much to our 5 panelists. Our directors and audience members have enjoyed it immensely and have gained a lot after listening to you, and we look forward to seeing and hearing more from all of you. Please continue to pay attention to our public account. We're going to have tweets regarding today's discussions. Again, thank you very much for joining us. Thank you.